Okay, we are ready to do the rigging, and I thought it was worth just going through the tools that are going to be used in the process. Some of these might look a little bit weird, but when I explain it here, it will all make perfect sense. So we need to get rigging onto some very tiny points and into some very tiny slots in various places. Underneath as well. Airfix give us a very good clear diagram, so all the red lines. The only bit that's I've been questioning a little bit is on the tail here, whether that's on both sides or not. I think it's on just one, but I'm not 100% sure. I think they're showing it on this side because it's on this side, but anyway, we'll look a bit more closely at that come the time. So we've got some little areas in the wings, we've got the main one across the top there, some little ones on the tail, and then underneath the wings and the tail in the same places. So let's talk about the tools, and then we can talk about the process. So we're going to use Easy Line for this. It's if you've not used it before, it's a sort of an elasticated line. It's got a bit of stretch in it, and basically you can take it from point to point, and as soon as it makes contact with CA glue, it's glued in place. So it's quite easy to work with. It would be wrong of me to say you shouldn't do some practice first, because all sorts of things can make this difficult. If you get too much glue on it, it can shrivel up. If you don't hold it onto the glue properly, it can come off, and then you've got it glued onto something that shouldn't be. So it is worth playing around and having a bit of a practice with it first. But that is what we're using for our rigging. So we need some tweezers for holding the line, and you're best with some with a slightly wider end, not pointy ones, just so that you've got better purchase on your rigging wire. So I'm going to be using a thin CA for this job. That's because it's going to leave the smallest amount of witness on the model. I've had this quite a while, so the drying time might be a little slower, so we'll see as we use it. It's not brand important really, but a thin CA is a little bit more helpful. So that's what we're going to use. So that's our glue. We'll put the glue onto a little cap, and then it's easy to get to with our glue applicator. This is my glue applicator, so it's a little bit of brass wire in a drill bit there. It's just the way I've always done it. I do have glue loops, but I just don't like them, so I tend to use this. And as a result of using a glue applicator, we need to be able to clean the applicator, and that is what the tea light is for. So this is actually a sweet jar lid, and that works perfectly, but keeps it steady and safe and stops the heat transfer into my mat. So that's why we've got matches. We can light that and we can leave it flickering in the corner, and every time we need to clean that, we can duck it in. So unlike doing it with a lighter, you don't have to mess around lighting it. I can just duck it in really quickly. So I prefer to use a tea light. I know there's lots of other people do it different ways, so that's why we've got those. And then finally, this is a needle threader. I've got two here because I want to talk about the difference. The reason we've got a needle threader is because we've also got a drill, and on the areas where we're going to have rigging cable on the top of the wing and in the same place underneath the wing, rather than gluing separate bits, I'm going to drill a little hole through, glue on our start connector, thread it through the hole, and then terminate on that connector. It's going to make it easy or easier than trying to glue different bits. So we're probably going to end up pushing this through the hole so that we can take our easy line through. So we can use our needle threader to thread the hole effectively. Now, if you use a needle threader for rigging, and I regularly do, then I'd recommend not buying the cheap ones that you can get in supermarkets that look like this. There's two reasons why you don't really want one of these, and I'll show you why. Firstly, the end tends to be a fair bit wider than the slightly more expensive professional dressmaking ones. And secondly, it's only got one crimp, which means if you're pulling something, it'll be all right with easy line, but if we were pulling thread on a wooden model ship, for example, they can get pulled out. Now, a professional one, like this needle threader here, this you can see has got two crimps, and it's much more solid. In fact, that will bend before that comes out, so which it has done. So it's definitely worth getting a double crimped one, and also you'll find that the point tends to be narrower on a professional one, so it goes into a smaller hole, which can be really handy when you're threading through plastic that you've drilled and you want. I mean, ultimately, we don't want to be able to see the hole realistically, so we're going to make it as small as possible. So that's what all of these are for. Without further ado, let's get on with the job. I forgot to mention this. This is a dressmaking tool for cutting threads, and we're going to use it for cutting the easy line. Right, let's see if we can get this first bit of rigging line on. So we're starting from there, so it's going to get a little bit of our glue. Problem with the thin glue is sometimes you're just not putting enough on. Right, and then all we need to do is put the end of the line in. And then I'm blowing on the glue, and that helps it activate. And then to check that we're all good, yeah, we can pull it tight, so that's okay. So put some glue just on the side here, hold the rigging thread tight, and then put it against where we want it to go. And then when you're sure it's probably glued, just relax the tension a little bit. If it comes off, it's not glued, but that is good. It's our first bit of rigging thread in place, so happy with that. We might as well move next to the main line. So we have a line that's going from there, so we'll glue that onto the top. Let's just get the end out and ready. So we're just going to glue onto that point there like that. So a bit more super thin CA. Let's just see if that's glued in. Yeah, you can see it grabs really quickly. And then we're taking it to this top point on the wing there. That wing? That's not a wing. That's a tail, surely. Pull it tight and then carefully line it onto the top there. Fairly sure that is, no it's not. Just gonna belt and braces, put a little bit more glue on the top there. And give it a blow. Right, let's see how we got on. Yeah, so we can cut that off now. Okay, so we have a line that then goes from there onto that, so let's do that next. Gluing onto easy line with practice isn't difficult, but can be a bit tricky first time. Steady hand is definitely required. Right, so I've got some funny shapes going on the end, so I'm just going to trim it. There we go, nice and straight again. So for this line here, we don't want to put glue on that line and then put the line against it like we're doing with everything else. We want to get the lines to touch and then dab it with the glue. I find that if you put the glue on first and then try and meet up to it, that it can make it wrinkle and stuff. Well, if it does, we can take it off and we can do it again, but we don't really want that to happen. So we need to find the point that we want, so it does lean backwards slightly, but only slightly, sort of like that. Right, so we'll get some glue on the applicator, put that where we want it. That's typical. The moment I get the glue ready and I'm ready to go, I drop it. Okay, that's worked nicely. See if we can show you that. There we go. I've got noisy people upstairs because I'm filming. I don't know if we can see that. There. Now if you look very closely on the tail, there is a little eye marked out on each one, which is our location point for the rigging. So that makes life nice and easy. We want to be going in sort of at an angle that's correct for what we want, but it's going to also pass through here, so it's easier to thread this through the tail. So the gap between the tail there, we're going to use our needle threader for that because it's going to be easier. So we pass that through. I'm guessing everyone knows how a needle threader works. There we go. So that makes that easy. Right, we want to glue that sort of basically in the angle that we want it to be at. It just makes life easier. We don't want it changing direction part way up, which is what will happen if we don't get this right. Right, just gonna clean the end of my, there we go, just burn the CA off that. Right, that is now glued, so we can thread that back, tighten that back up, there we go. Now if we get that tight, now if you're rigging a ship, you'd be putting weights on this and stuff to hold it in place, but with the easy line, because we're just putting a dab of glue on it and it's instant, then we don't have to worry about that. So I'm actually resting the easy line on the top of the hinge where these two parts have connected. There we go. Which is what it shows on the instructions, that it passes through where that hinge is. So the most difficult thing to do is to glue onto a flat surface, because you can't get it taut. So I'm going to show you how I go about doing that. So we're going to need a little bit of blue tack. Okay, I'm bringing you in close for this, so I can you can better see what I'm trying to explain. This is probably the most difficult thing to do when you're rigging with easy line, and that is to get the line to terminate on a flat surface, i.e. this point here. So I'm going to show you how I do it. We've got you nice and close so you can see me fluff it up in detail. But what we're going to do is we're basically going to take the line and take it past where we want it. And then we're going to hold it down with a bit of blue tack. See what I mean? It's fiddly, especially, well, it's fiddly anyway, but it's even more fiddly when you've got a camera where you naturally want your arms. So the blue tack is going to hold that line taut and where I want it. So we've just adjusted it so that the easy line is directly above the point where we're going to glue it. So we now need a cocktail stick, and we're going to put the glue on the point where we want the easy line to stick, which is there. And then what we're going to do with our cocktail stick is we're going to pull the line till it makes contact with the glue, blowing on it to help the glue grab. I'm going to be cautious and leave it longer than I know it needs, and then as we relax it, there you go. So that's now terminating where we want. So we can remove the blue tack very carefully, because what we don't want to do is ping this off, which is possible. Pull the line off the blue tack. And then what we've got to do is just cut the easy line away where we don't want it. Like so. There you go. I managed to not fluff it up, and there is our line in place. And when that dries, the shine will go, but we can put a little bit of matte varnish over the top of that just to sort that out. Okay, brilliant. I'm going to carry on with this. You've got the idea, and then when it's finished, well, it's pretty much finished. So this is our Airfix 1:48 scale Avro Anson. Still have a little bit of touch up to do in a couple of places, which I'll do after. So I'm just going to take some photos that we can have a look at the end. So what are my final thoughts now it's built? Okay, so the model itself is truly lovely. The subject matter is a little unusual, and I like that a lot. I like the quirky and the unusual. All that glazing there really nice. With the little gun turret at the top as well. Quite an unusual looking aircraft. So yeah, I really like the subject matter. The actual plastic is really nice to work with. Was crisp. Was really nicely moulded. Didn't need anything in the way of filling and sanding. I didn't see any shrink. I don't think. I think we had some on one seat, didn't we? But that was about it. So I can't fault the way the model parts were. Fit, in the main, was very good. The most tricky bit is the engine cowlings, which I've struggled with a little bit, and they're still not right. I think I'm perhaps going to have a go at taking them apart and redoing them at some point. But yeah, they're very difficult to see the location points, and they don't build up easily. And I'd also say the underneath section of the engine nacelles are quite tricky, difficult to line up. There was one or two other sort of fiddly areas. Putting the fuselage halves together is a little fiddly, and putting the internal cockpit frame together is a little tricky. It's all doable, but you can see why it's the skill level it is. It's not a simple build from that point of view. Level of detail is lovely, particularly on the insides. And of course you've got the highlight of the kit, which is the ability to see through all of that glazing and see in there, and all that hard work isn't covered up and disappeared like it is on other kits. So that was a highlight. Other highlights are the paint options. You've got some really good paint options. This one is very different, which is why I went with it. It's just completely different to anything else I've got. So I really love this paint scheme. So that was a definite highlight. It was a joy to build, so that's clearly a highlight, and it looks very accurate. I'm told that there is an issue with the wings, and that should be the full length of the wing on the Mark 1, and that there's an error there, but I don't know whether that's correct or not, but I was told that by one of the viewers. But all in all, from a point of view of taking the model out of the box and building it, it's lovely. It really is. And it becomes my favourite 1:48 scale builds purely because you can see so much of the work on the inside. And prior to that, it was the Airfix Walrus Silver Wings. Again, because of all the interior, but you don't see much of it when it's done. So this built up even more nicely than the Walrus did. So totally enjoyed this. Yeah, not much more I can say. Nothing wrong with this kit at all. It's a beautiful kit. You end up with a beautiful model. Some fiddly areas, like I say, but other than that, just an awful lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed the builds, and I will see you very soon. You enjoy your modelling and take care. Bye for now.